Hey everyone, Avatar Guy here. The new Avatar Fire and Ash trailer just dropped, so we're going to analyze this scene by scene, frame by frame. I thought of 3 or 4 different ways of doing this, but I thought, you know what, the best way to do it is load up the trailer, go through it slowly, point out what I'm seeing. Let's dive in. Right off the start, very familiar image, Hallelujah Mountains, but who are the 2 people in it? So just from the sound alone, I think that's Loak and Netiam. From the woohoo, it sounds like Loak to me, but from the Banshees, Ikran, that's Loak and Netiam. I think that's a dream sequence to open the movie. I think that's a dream that Loak's having, or it's a memory that Loak's going into to remember his brother. Let's keep going. So first scene, familiar image. Next one, I think this is Loak and Soraya. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. This seems to be Soraya. This seems to be Loak at the front. It seems to me like they're exploring the Sea Dragon, the big ship we saw that went down, that got blown up at the end of Avatar 2, and they're exploring Onanilu together. So again, this looks like it's probably from early in the movie. Kiri within Ocarina. I think that scene's going to be important a little later, because I think that scene probably are going to appear later. A very similar scene to what we've seen, where Soraya is talking to Loak in Avatar 2, where she's saying that I see you. This is mirrored here, where she's talking about, you know, the strength of the ancestors in here. Loak looking his usual like moody self, and then here for the first time we see the Wind Traders. So one of the 2 new clans that have been confirmed to be included in Avatar Fire and Ash. We've seen these actually in the concept art, but we haven't seen them in CGI or in the flash yet. So actually, I think this is really, really cool and really good to look at. We see one of their big creatures. It's like these are some sort of creature that works along the side of the Na'vi, where they're pulled along in a harness, and this kind of like vehicle at the back that we see Kiri on is pulled along with them. Interestingly here, it's a blink and you miss it moment. In the background, that's Palak. So Palak, as you already know, is one of the leaders. He's played by David Thewlis, better known as Professor Lupin in the Harry Potter movies. But yeah, just in this scene here, it looks to me like that. If you compare the concept art of him, it looks to me like that's him standing in the background, which makes sense as well, given that he's the head of this clan, and Kiri's here. So it looks to me like this is probably sometime after during their visit to them. And then, yeah, this seems to be a different time of day just from the coloration, I would say. Again, very similar to some of the concept art that we have seen of Avatar so far. If we keep going, right, this scene here, it looks absolutely fantastic. Huge volcano in the background erupting, lava flowing down the side of the mountain, and obviously the tiny little figure has to be Quaritch. It looks like Quaritch is heading towards the Ash Clan. Again, I think this probably happens very early in the movie. We know that the Ash Clan, the Manquan, are going to play a huge role in Avatar Fire and Ash, and we're going to see more of them throughout the rest of the trailer. So this seems to be their home tree. As you can see, we've seen like images of this concept art, and it's all, you know, it's the opposite of what we know home trees to be. You know, full of life, green. This is dead as you know it can be. Everything's destroyed. This scene I already have seen a lot of people talking about in various places, like the Discord server on Twitter, because it's a blink and you miss it kind of moment. We have the family seemingly walking through a swamp. This seems to be Spider on the shoulders of Jake, and then super interestingly at the back here is Quaritch walking with them. So there's going to be some event here where Quaritch actually joins the Sullys and isn't openly aggressive to them, which obviously is a huge transformation of what we've seen so far in the movies. It's also nice to see a swamp back, like the rainforest jungle type areas that we've become used to. It also looks to me like, again, this is another bit of this section. That looks like it could be Quaritch in the background, and Tuk, Kiri, Loak, and Loak almost looks to be injured. So it could be that they've been attacked, and then it's forced Quaritch to join with them. I think this is Payakan's eye. I need to like break that like down. I think that this is almost certainly Payakan's eye from the patterns and just again what we've seen in the previous movies, and some kind of ritual that's happening like the Metkayina. We've heard about this in some of the Empire articles that have been released. That this huge Tulkun here is the patriarch of the group and is really massive. So Payakan was big. This guy is an absolute giant in comparison, and we're going to see a little bit more of that, I think, later on in the trailer to give some sense of scale. It's this. I think this is a really cool piece here on the right as well. The kind of rainbow feature on the structure. Just that little quick scene there where it looks like Kiri and Spider are obviously knives seem to be drawn. They're heading towards something. There's definitely like fire in the visor. It could be that this is their first interaction with the Ash Clan. And an attack that I think we see some of later, or maybe the aftermath of later. This scene, I think is funny. It just makes me think of Mike Tyson because he's got such a famous tattoo on his eye. Obviously, in terms of the context of the movie, this is Soraya sort of becoming a bigger part of the Metkayina culture. She is, getting older and developing into a higher stature, or it's one of the rituals they pass through in Metkayina society, where they obviously get these kind of tattoos that are heavily inspired by Polynesian culture. And it's nice to see that Loak and Soraya are having this moment. This is interesting. I mean, the Tonowari Ronal, just looking at each other, it seems like there's maybe some trouble there. But Jake and Loak obviously falling out over something. At this stage, we don't know. I think that this will deal a lot with Loak's feelings of what happened with Neteyam. We already saw that it's probably those two at the start. If he's having dreams about him, feels responsible for his brother's death, then obviously this could be a huge part of the movie. And if Jake doesn't seem to understand that, he's still, very military, then I can see that being a huge part of the movie and one that I'm really excited to see. The emotion on Jake's face is fantastic. It almost feels to me like they've upgraded. I mean, probably not the case, but the CGI and the way that the emotion is captured in the face seems so really powerful here that you can really see all of the emotion, like the little changes in the muscles in the eyes. It's insane. The position that this is at. So Neytiri looks to be injured here. Her arm looks to be in a sling. If that's the case, we didn't see her injured at the end of the last movie. So this is happening at some point where there's being an attack. So it's not, obviously not a chronological order happening here. It comes out in December 19th. Don't forget it. Quaritch walking to what we know is the Ash Clan's home tree and where they live, with his shirt off, seemingly, making some kind of truce potentially, and we'll see again some of that later in the scene. This is huge. So this is a huge thing here, right? This like I want to hear like everyone's theories in the comments. I want to know what you think, because again, this is just dropped literally an hour ago at this stage. I don't know how long this will take to upload, but I felt that I needed to get this up. This is a huge scene, right? Spider's not wearing his mask. They're definitely breathing Pandoran air. Now, this is either inside the memory of Eywa or something's happened so Spider can breathe. I don't know what that would be. Kiri's magical powers, some kind of genetic testing by the Adir. I don't know. But this is a huge, small scene, but him, Spider, not having his mask on is crazy. We got this scene with Kiri and Ronal. Ronal, who is the Sahik of the Metkayina, and I think that part of this is obviously her talking to Kiri about her powers. If you remember in Avatar 2, there was that scene where Ronal sees Kiri controlling the fish. This feels like it relates back to that she's saying, if you have the power to change this, to do something, you should use that power. This scene is right. I'm going to go through this one frame by frame. So, notice that everything's on fire in the back. Like there's a huge amount of flames here. This has obviously already been an attack. Okay. Jake's running forward. This, to me. So let's do the zoom here, right? Because this is important. I think that is Varang. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. Check the headdress and the face paint. And next to her, I think, is Quaritch and Ko. I think that that's Recoms and Varang confronting them. I'm almost certain of it. It's a blink and you miss it moment, but I'm almost certain. Varang, Quaritch, they're confronting them. Tonawari, Jake. Jake saying, don't do this. Multiple sea dragons now, and this huge factory ship that we see in the background. Now we're starting to see things heat up. I don't think this is from. I think this is again tricky editing. So nothing in the trailer, I believe, is chronologically ordered, which makes perfect sense for a trailer. But I get the feeling that this is after the end of A2 when Quaritch has come back and he's kind of like licking his wounds, and I can imagine that this is them debriefing and saying, "Look, you're going to go and reach out to the Ash Clan now. Good luck." Jake and Neytiri sleeping, but obviously Neytiri can't sleep. Again, this just confirms to me the theme of Neytiri dealing with the grief of losing a son can be a huge theme in the movie, and I think one of the biggest shots of the trailer. I think I'll use this as a thumbnail. Varang. Everyone's been waiting to see her in her glory and coming out of her hut, house, whatever that is. I want to know what the bones of that creature are, because that's a huge jawbone. Absolutely huge. Whatever that is, maybe they have dinosaurs on Pandora, I don't know. But that is a massive, massive thing. And her design is just, phenomenal. In fact, there was a few things about her design that I sort of noticed, was that a lot of people were speculating that she had claws, and I don't think she does. It's just the tips of her fingers are black. So, and potentially again, we'll see another scene soon that confirms that. There seems to be these bladed, these can be like wet knives. And there's also this scarification on her stomach. So I did some quick I've read about different indigenous peoples' practices, and there is scarification where there's some peoples who believe in crocodiles, that we were crocodiles, and so they practice scarification where they make these crocodile markings on their skin. And we know that James Cameron's heavily influenced by these different indigenous peoples, so I can imagine that this might be part of that. The red and black headdress. The fact that her head seems to be shaved is really strange, and she's got this really scary face paint going on that's almost like a skull, and then the red paint on the arms. It's like a level of complexity we have seen it because the Metkayina have this deep level of complexity with their shells and things, but we haven't seen the really heavy use of dyes. Certainly not on the skin. Obviously, going to make them stand out. We see here that's the Night Wraith, which is her mount. So she's flying this. And again, I think pretty unique creature. So next scene, we get this kind of look at the Ash Clan, potentially when Quaritch is first visiting them. Red paint on the body, white, and it seems like this white on their bodies as well. It could be, again, the ash of the title. And these maybe bones in the face? I don't know. I can't tell what they are. I'll have to do some more research into those. And this huge bow that we're sort of familiar with. This is a classic James Cameron. From a directing's point of view, this is a classic James Cameron shot. The zoom and shake. So it zooms in, shakes. Not shaky like... It's not Jason Bourne tier shaky, but it's zoom and move. And this shot of... It seems to be the Ash Clan doing a deal with the RDA. These are amp suits. These are weapon crates. That's what it looks like to me. We're about to see a huge change in what we've seen on Pandora so far. We're actually seeing Na'vi who are siding with the RDA. This is an interesting shot because a lot of people speculated that Varang had claws, and this seems to, at least to me, to say that she doesn't. That she's dipping her fingers in this oil and then burning the tips of the fingers so that they go black, which sort of in some of the images gives the depiction. I don't know what this might mean. You'd have to practice a very high level of I don't know what it would be. Flagellation, maybe, to be able to withstand that. It looks pretty painful to me. Noticed immediately, because it's it is again a blink and you miss it moment, is that in the background someone sat. If that's Quaritch, we could see again parallel to Jake's story. If this is him becoming one of the Ash people, if Quaritch is truly joining them, and this is part of that process, and we see later on in the trailer what could be a part of this, but that fire and pain and suffering is such a integral part of their identity, I think we could really see something between Quaritch and her happening. Again, so this is another attack we're seeing arrows on fire being shot at our heroes, which we have never seen before. We haven't seen arrows, being fired at the good guys. So this seems to be, again, the Ash Clan in this attack. Loak jumps forward, starts shooting. I think that relates back to the scenes we've seen earlier in the trailer of Spider and Kiri in the jungle. That's I think is what's happening. And then again, so this is a really interesting shot of Neytiri. She's obviously been injured significantly, and we're going to see another scene later as well. And she's in some kind of facility, human facility, tubes in the nose, etc. And she's bandaged up. Her chest is heavily bandaged. There's like a small blood splatter on her chest. And the first thing she says is the children, which of course any mother would. And then again, this one where they're being chased through the forest. Neytiri says the children. They're being chased. And she says, no, Spider. And obviously something's happening to him. The mask has been broken. She's saying, we hear Kiri say, no, Spider. His mask is failing. We see these like zeros on the screen. The mask, something's going to happen. And this is where the scene that we saw earlier of the ocarina floating down in front of Kiri, I think is going to play a huge part. I think that is going to be another part of this scene here. There's still plenty of trailer left. And this is where I just start looking, look at this. We've never seen anything like this before. That's the Varang's Night Wraith, them seemingly, working with the RDA. It looks like some kind of victory has been achieved. They seem to be, almost celebrating, like all these pictures and things. And then bang, they've got Jake. And it's almost like a perp walk, It's like they've got flashing lights, cameras, everyone's looking at him. They've captured Jake Sully, which I guess in Pandoran terms is crazy because they just captured the most wanted man on Pandora, which would be a huge thing, right? Getting walked across the flashing lights. Jake, who knows why he's there? This to me looks like it's Neytiri, and she's got an arrow in her back. So this could be, if there's this huge battle, where we see Loak shooting the gun. It really does seem to me like this could be the aftermath of that battle, and we see that Neytiri's in the hospital because potentially of this. That's what I think is happening in this scene. And also, it looks to me like Neytiri might have her battle pants on that we saw in Avatar 1. A really beautiful shot though. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Feels like anytime we see the planets, it's just amazing. Can't wait to see that in laser. So there's this really short snippet of Neytiri where she goes, we'll find another way. And it seems like she's talking with Jake. I mean, maybe she's not. It could be anyone. She's obviously, again, injured. That looks like blood on her head. And she's covered in... This is super interesting because she's got this kind of dark paint on her, but it looks like she might also have ash on her skin. I've seen people talk about this. If you look at the bottom left of her arm, that looks like red to me. I think that Neytiri has, in this shot, joined the Ash Clan because of or at least this is after she's joined, because of what's on her arms and legs here. I think that that's almost like a major spoiler that Neytiri is going to join the Ash Clan, or maybe infiltrate them in some way. Maybe I'm reaching, I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, because obviously this is a huge moment if that's true. This is kind of, again, a sense of scale. So we know that the Patriarch is way bigger than Payakan, and we know that the factory ship is way bigger than the Sea Dragons, and he's coming up here and attacking it and just doing some serious damage there, just to give a sense of scale. And James Cameron has said that the kind of battle at the end of A2 was going to be significantly smaller than what we're going to see in A3, and that in each movie, if Avatar 4 and Avatar 5, the battles get bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's going to be more and more things involved. This is just an absolutely amazing shot. They've gone back to their Avatar 1 war paint. You've got Neytiri on the left here, Jake on the right. He seems to be has some kind of armor that's maybe Metkayina, but that's Jake and Neytiri going to war. They do. I think there's some sneaky editing here. Notice this. So Varang's on the attack. She doesn't have claws. She points. You can see that the fingers are black. This here on the right, huge right hand side. That's one of the airships. It's on fire. So who knows when this attack takes place? If this is like a chase movie and it's non-stop, doesn't let up, there's going to be no rest for the Sullys in this. So I don't think this scene here is actually from. It's not in sequence. The paint on Neytiri's face seems different here. It's dark, almost like the funeral paint. Shooting one of the Ash Clan, hitting them off their Ikran. There's obviously some kind of giant flux. I don't know where this is. It looks like it could be in the Floating Mountains, but one of a kind we haven't seen before. And there's weird things going on in the background. So we have Jake in a uniform that we haven't seen. He has got his war paint on. Spider's falling down the slide. Why Spider would be there, we don't have any idea. But if we look, again, a reaction shot of Kiri, which I think must be from earlier on, and this one I think must be from really early on in the movie, because I think, at least I hope it is, this I think is going to be like a Back to the Future style moment where the movie Avatar 2 ends, Avatar 3 begins immediately. And this is one of the earliest scenes because this is what they were wearing when we saw Avatar 2 end. Another shot that I'm sure everyone is going to love is Quaritch, who seems to have gone completely Ash Clan, which is, not something I guess Quaritch, the human Quaritch, would have ever guessed or thought to say. So seeing him in looking like this is truly, truly wild. And who knows what it points to in terms of his character arc. But it really does seem like he's not just traded with the Ash Clan. He's, at some point, he's become one of them. Another fist fight between Quaritch and Jake. This time again. So this is interesting. If you look in the background here, there's this huge machine, and I think that's a human machine that's exploding or being destroyed. The complexity of it does seem like it's a human one. Look at the structure as they're fighting, and they're fighting on the floating mountains. It could be that it's maybe a weapon that they thought they'd to use against the floating mountains because that's where the Amaticaya are. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, more like seemingly flux. Loak with the gun. I don't know. This seems like, again, it's an earlier shot that maybe it's from the scenes where they're attacking with the arrows, and it seems to be a nighttime attack from the Ash Clan. But it seems like Loak has truly embraced his kind of human, like semi-human origins with their weapons, and he's definitely got something in his sights that he wants to shoot but maybe can't. We have is that Jake landing? Oh no, actually I think that's Loak or Jake. I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure who that is. It's really, it's not clear to me who is landing. It looks like it's Neytiri in the background. So this is definitely Neytiri. And then there's been lots of discussion about what is this on her that she's carrying. Some people think it's a baby. Some people think it's a seed. I mean, it seems to me it's more likely to be some kind of weapon that she needs to use than it is a baby. It doesn't look like baby shaped. It looks too like cylindrical to me. Kiri in the background, Neytiri with her war paint. Now, the way this is edited is that it's like Neytiri shooting the arrow at Varang. But I don't think that this scene here is actually happening at the same time. It's just a really cool shot of Varang shooting a flamethrower, but I don't think that she's in the same place. It's just it's tricky editing to make it look like they're about to fight each other. I don't think that that's what's happening. The final shot of the trailer, Varang grabbing Kiri by the Kuru and saying,
"Your goddess has no dominion here."
I mean, that's an amazing end to a trailer. And her saying this says so much about the Ash Clan. The only thing that I can kind of point out, there's a couple of things that I was like, I think what she's wearing is really cool. Like the kind of little bones and things around her neck. There's some really interesting little details that they've obviously added to her, which I think is really nice. And that in her hand, it looks like a dreadlock. Now, I don't know whose dreadlock that is. I mean, it looks too light to be Jake's. It could be Spider's if she's grabbed a piece of his hair, in which case we should probably be worrying for Spider. But yeah, Varang's going to be an absolute beast of a character without question. I think that what we're going to see is the initial attack on the reef, them traveling with the wind traders, and then possibly something, further along where there's this other bigger battle. But where these all sit within the movie, I'm not 100% certain. But it's obvious that Varang's obviously going to play a huge part in it. That just this with her and Kiri, if it's anything, again, like we're going to see, is going to be absolutely insane. What did you see from the trailer? Like, comment, subscribe, watch my other videos. Let me know in the comments things that I've missed, things that you think I've got wrong, things that you think I've got right, what do you agree with, what you don't agree with. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.